Caterpillar Incorporated, the world's largest maker of construction equipment, raised its full-year earnings forecast and posted second-quarter profit that topped analyst estimates today as demand rose in developing countries. Joining us right now from Peoria, Illinois, is Doug Oberhelman. He's Chief Executive Officer and Vice Chairman of Caterpillar. Doug, great to have you on with Matt and myself. You know, it's interesting. We have a lot of folks on, economist strategists, who are reining in their forecasts for growth and so on. And for the market, they're concerned about the macro picture. How would you describe the macro, the global picture right now?
Well, I'd say we're concerned about it also on a macro basis long term, but short term is what we're dealing with right now. We're seeing certainly a mixed story around the world, but for the most part positive. I just returned last night from Europe, and even there, as depressing as the news can be from time to time, our dealers and customers that I met with feel a little better. The stories this year are certainly a lot better than a year ago, and I think what you have to remember, Carol, is that a year ago, our industry and the world, for that matter, economic growth was so bad, unprecedented in most of our lives, that we're coming off a very low base. So all in all, we're feeling pretty good here, but it's a mixed story around the world, certainly.
I wonder, I mean, you had machinery sales jump 43% here in the U.S. in the quarter, I think up 62% in Asia and doubling in Latin America. So you're obviously doing a lot better in emerging markets than you are doing here. Does that tell the story like you think it is in the macro perspective about the U.S.?
I think that's exactly the story right now. We're seeing virtually every strong growth developing economy, whether it's Brazil, as you mentioned, or China, even India, growing pretty nicely. But even in the U.S. and Western Europe, we've seen ourselves respond. But again, I come back to the point, a year ago was really anemic growth. We were virtually delivering nothing to our dealers and customers a year ago at this point in time. Now we are. So the percentages can be pretty big, but having said that, we're still doing pretty well in this part of the year.
No, you're right, Doug. It's great to have some perspective because the percentages, can kind of throw you off there. Let me ask you, though, where do you see the most growth coming from when you look around the globe?
Well, without question, it's Asia, primarily China, South Asia, India. Australia is doing very, very well thanks to the mining industry there, which has responded primarily to demand for ore and coal into China. So that leads the way, but not far behind would be Brazil, a couple other countries in South America that have strengthened their balance sheet over the last decade or so, and are now investing that into infrastructure and doing the types of things that we do. And we're pretty optimistic about the long term for those countries right now.
What impact, if any, Doug, have you seen in terms of Chinese growth? Because you know that the numbers have been coming down a little bit. It's still dramatic growth in China, but the government has been taking steps to really kind of control the growth. Are you seeing an impact as a result of that?
We have not seen much of an impact. We've seen a little slowdown in order uptake, but nothing very measurable. Remember, and we've watched China a long time at Caterpillar, that the Chinese have done this many times where growth gets too hot, they'll break it. Mm-hmm. Growth gets too slow, they'll feed it. And they've done a pretty good job with that over time. And right now they're trying to rein in that housing boom that they've had. And I think for the most part are doing a pretty good job. In the past, they've tended to hit it just about right. We'll see how they do this time, but it needs to slow. It couldn't continue at the rates we saw in the first half of the year, and I think they understood that. And I have confidence they will deal with that like they have for an awfully long time.
Hey, Doug, let me ask you, you guys let some people go in the downturn, and now you're obviously expanding. You have orders rising. You're boosting your forecasts. You're making acquisitions. How many people do you think you're going to hire in this expansion period for Caterpillar?
Well, in the second quarter, we brought back hired about 4,000 people, almost 4,000 people, about a third of those in the United States, 2/3 outside the U.S. that were scattered around the world. We're still forecasting a need for about 9,000 total, so another 4,000, 5,000, 6,000 yet this year. If demand continues as it does and we ramp our facilities up, we'll continue to add. We are watching costs very, very closely because of all the things and uncertainty around us. But we are adding staff back as we need them.